Okay guys, we're going to do the green pepper sew along, and I had to order the current version of this pattern. They changed the pattern number, and I want to show you what we get when we order it. They send you a list of all their patterns and the cost of all of them. They're anywhere from, looks like $7 to, see, $9, $12 over here. These are all $7 to $9. Anyway, they're fairly affordable. Here's how the pattern comes now versus the way I showed you in the previous video before. I haven't opened it up yet, so let's open it up and see what we've got here. Just a printed sheet of paper there, like the old pattern, and then here are the instructions and your pattern. It's interesting, this is not pattern paper now, it's more like a printed paper, which I actually like. See the tear sheet perforation here. They've got it set up, it looks like on a printer. Alright, so two sides of the bag. There's our straps. There's our strap extension there. Move it out here so you can see it. Zipper extension. This is the front and back flap. Zippered pocket. Okay, bottom, front, back, pocket, sides, strap, patch pocket, and then strap extension. Looks like a fairly simple pattern. Looking at the instructions here. Shows you the cutout layout. And then your markings to notate. And it's got little clip marks right here and here where I want you to mark it. And it tells you right side lining, wrong side. So these are the lining pieces. These are the right side. Let's see what the instructions look like. Turn it around here so I can read it. Okay, it basically wants you to run a flame over the webbing that they're going to use for the strap, and I would cover that with fabric and possibly some fusible fleece on it or something to pad it a little bit. And it shows you to sew the strap onto the extension. So the strap extension is here, and then they want you to stitch it on the side of the bag. And I guess these, I don't know what these marks here are. I'll have to look here and see what it is. Anyway, it tells you place the bag bottom on one side, of the side piece, sew it. Zigzag stitch around it, we'll serge it. Fold the seams toward the bag and top stitch. So top stitching your seams down. And then it goes through front and getting the side onto the front. So that's what it looks like once it's sewed on. Then it's talking about the zipper extension and sewing the zipper at the top of the bag, it looks like. This is fairly normal bag construction, it looks like. Anyway, finishing the pocket and the lining front. And patch pocket. Then that's the Velcro piece, it looks like. Zigzag placement of the bag lining, top stitch the edge towards the bottom and Velcro facing up. Okay, so that's the pocket and they're using the Velcro as the opening, holding it and closing it. I'll probably put a zipper pocket in there instead of messing with that. It's kind of amateurish. I know they're supposed to be simple, but I'll do that. And then it talks about lining the outer bag, sewing the flap on, turn the flap through the opening. Okay, it's got there. And then stitch. Okay, I see what it's doing. It's having you do the lining and the flap together, leave the opening so you can turn it right side out and then stitch it on. Then attach the strap, and that's it. So this should be fairly simple, but we'll follow the instructions as we're sewing it. That way you guys that need to read patterns on putting a bag together can follow along. We'll keep it nice and ordered. And okay, let me, I'm going to cut all this out and then cut my fabric out, and then we'll get started with the sew along. Okay, we're going to start doing our sew along now. I got everything cut out, and I've gone ahead and sewed the sides and the bottom together. Let me show you what I've done. And I tried using self fabric for the straps, and it was just too thick because I had to interface this fabric I've got. It's a stretch knit, but it's very thick, and I've been trying to get rid of it, so I thought I'd use it for this. So I used SF101 as the interfacing on these. It said to use fusible fleece, and I didn't want to do that, but anyway, I wasn't happy with these, so I decided to go with the webbing like they suggest on the pattern. And let me show you what I've done here. These are the sides, and that's the bottom. So I sewed them with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm using a compensating foot for that. It's a 3/8 inch foot that I have from my industrial machine that works on this machine. So anyway, I put it on there, sewed those two seams together like it suggests at the beginning of the pattern, and I pressed my seams flat. It says to press them to one side. I pressed them flat, and then I top stitched to hold them down. And I used the width of my presser foot right along the seam here on each side to make sure everything was nice and even. And so you can see that one, and I will do the last one here to show you how I do it. this stuff off here. We're going to sew these on next on the side. I'm going a little bit out of order from what they say on the pattern. Alright, so I'll line my pressure foot up with that seam. Can't pick the thread up. There we go. Okay. Anyway, line the pressure foot up with the side of that seam. Back stitch, and off we go. And by using that seam as a guide, you have a nice straight stitch on the back side. This one is all done. You can see the seam there. So we got that boring part taken care of. Get rid of all my threads here. Alright, so that looks good enough. So now we need to sew the webbing and the rings on the side. And there is a mark for the strap replacement on the pattern. And so what I'm going to do is measure how far down it is from the top. It's 3.5 inches from the top. And these were cut 4.5 inches. So let me get a piece of chalk here so I can mark it. Get my Dritz chalk pen. Just need a small mark. Alright, put that at the 3.5 mark. It's just going to leave a very faint indentation there. There's that side. Do this side. Okay, there's that. So the instructions say to basically do the square and then come cross stitch it on each side. So that's what we will do. And I've burnt the edges of these. This is a, it's not a cotton, so you just have to heat it up and it burns it down nicely without showing the burn marks. Alright, that looks like that's about the center. Tell you what, I'm going to change to a white thread for this. So let me change my thread out real quick and I'll be right back, and we'll sew it on. I don't really want to use this orange thread on this white webbing, so let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, we got it changed out to white thread now. We'll sew these on. I'm just going to eyeball the center. By the way, to hold this strap in together, just buy you some Elmer School glue. It's wash away, so it's not sticky and bindy the way the permanent stuff is, but it holds. So get it about right there. Tell you what, I'm going to turn this around. It's easier to do it from the other side. Get this flipped around. Come on, turn over. Okay, there we go. Looks like it's about in the middle. We'll start on this edge right here. I'm using So Fine thread from Superior Threads, and I really like it. It's very fine, doesn't have a lot of fuzz on it, and you may want to check it out and get you some. It looks thinner, but it's stronger, and I really like it. Take my stitch back down to 2.5. Maybe a little bit easier on you if you do this before you sew these edges together. Alright, let's come across now. Come down. Okay, now we want to do our cross. Just keep your eye on where you're going when you do this. Let me put something under the foot. See if I can fold this up, get it high enough. Okay, there's that one. I'll come across the top again, and then I'll go down the other direction. Looks like I went up a little bit too far. Let me go back a couple of stitches. See, that puts me lined up where the other stitch is. It's close enough. go ahead and come down this other side. I'd rather come up to that tall point. I don't know, let me see how it looks. It'll be okay. I can go ahead and go down the side. Just keep that foot level. And again, I'm keeping my eye on my target. It's kind of like driving a car. You don't look right where you are, you look where you're going. Okay. Got that one installed. Now I'm not going to show it, but I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. And one of the things that you need to do, it tells you on the patterns, I need to cover this with you. You need to stay stitch. I went in a 1/4 of an inch. The seam allowance 3/8, so it's in between 1/4 and 1/2. So the seam allowance will come over here just fine. They want you to be able to clip these edges as you go around the corner. So you want to stay stitch on the bottom on each side and on each side of the sides as they meet on this seam. So it's about 4 or 5 inches roughly as you go up. You can see that one. And then you do the same thing on the other side because they're going to be going around the corner on it also. So we've got stay stitches on both of them, and again it's within the seam allowance, so be sure and do that first even before you sew these pieces together. Just lay them down and do the stay stitch at 1/4 of an inch on each corner, and you'll be ready to go once you get this sewed together. So I wanted to make sure I covered that. I didn't show it because it's boring just sewing stitches on a piece of fabric straight down it. Alright, let me get this other one in, and then we'll attach this to the main frame. Okay, I got these both sewed on, so we'll go around and then cross stitch on each side. So now we pin it using the marks to the outside fabric, and it says to sew it from the center mark up on one side and then come over here on this side and sew it up to keep everything lined up. So I'm going to lay the fabric down here and see what I need to do to clip into the seam allowances going around this curve. So get my scissors here. Gonna start here right before the curve, go on each side of this. I'm cutting right up to that stay stitch, that basting stitch, whatever we got on there. It's a stay stitch, not basting, but okay, let's see if that will make the corner. Make sure it's staying flat right there. I need to cut just a little bit wider to make that turn a little bit better. Didn't quite go to the stitch line on these. Okay, that looks like that'll work. Let me do the other side now. Okay, that looks good there too. So we'll sew this side first. Start just before my pin here. I'll come down here when I'm finished and tie this center part up. Just need to get far enough away from it where the pin doesn't interfere with what I'm doing. Okay, get my seam up against that guide. I'll back stitch here at the beginning and end to make sure the stitch stays. It'll be easier to hold this once this seam is stitched down. Seam sticking out there. Alright, now we're going to start going around the corner, so we're going to start curving. Keep that corner right up next to that foot. Get it around here where I can see it. Made it around the corner. And it looks like the side panel is a little bit long, so I will probably mark it and serge, cut it off and reserge it. That's fine. It's always good to be a little bit longer than shorter. Just need to get to where the end is. Right there. Really anchor that down. Okay, there's that side. Now let's do the other side. Now this time we're going to sew it with the curving seam down, so you're going to have to pay close attention when you do this to keep it joined up. Got my fabric all lined up. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to sew right up to where I see it meets up right here, and then start curving it about right there. Okay, now I'm sewing right up to where I need to do the curve, because I got to get the fabric up next here. Sew a little ways and then curve it some more. Okay. Stayed in there, looks good. We'll look at it once I get a little bit further down. And this side is lining up much better than the other side did. So, I don't know if I sewed the seam allowance a little bit wider on one than I did the other one, maybe. It's okay, we'll take care of it. Yeah, it's a little bit off. I'll fix that. I'll cut it so that it lines up perfectly. This one over here is the one that's the furthest off for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Okay, pull my pin out. Close this seam right here. Okay. Cut our stitches. Yeah, there we go. There's that side. Now we got to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm not going to cut anything on the top and reserge it until I get the other side on. That way if it's a little bit higher too, then, which it probably should be looking at it. Anyway, so I'm going to line up the center mark on the other side and sew it on too, and I'll show you the results. I'm going to cut this and reserge it to even it up, and this one came up a little bit short, so I'll cut that and make sure that lines up perfectly. Kind of need to do that for when you get the lining in, and that will be it. We'll have the outside done, then we'll do the inside. So let me line this up and get it sewed in, even these sides up, and I'll show you the results. Okay, I've got the outer part of the bag all sewed together. Turn it right side out here so you can see it. Yeah, I just had to kind of serge around the top to even up the edges where they're off about 1/4 of an inch on some of the places. Alright, there it is. The bottom piece pushed out. I've pressed the seams flat, so there we go. There's our bag. Alright, now the other thing I did, I followed the instructions on sewing the extensions on the zipper. So you put right sides together, lay it flat, sew a 3/8 inch seam, and then come and top stitch 1/4 of an inch from the edge on each side to hold it down. So I've got that done. They tell you to, I use zippers by the yard, so I was able to cut it at, I think it's 13 inches, and then put the pull on it and put the pull in the middle. And it's a nice thing about when you do them by the yard, you can actually keep both ends closed when you sew it in, and then just pull it apart like this once you get it in the bag, and then just zip it up. Okay, next thing we need to do is sew the pocket. So let me get all that together and get the instructions read and figure out exactly what I need to do, and we'll move on with that. So let me do that. Okay, we're going to sew the zipper pocket for the internal piece now is the next thing they say on the instructions to do. They say to put it face down on the right side of the fabric, I guess. You have to read the instructions, but anyway, this fabric really looks the same on both sides, so I'm not too concerned about it. So you want to mark the middle of your zipper and then the middle of your fabric and match those up. So I've got my mark right there, and put my clip there to keep it lined up. So now the extensions are a little bit longer than what they need to be, which is fine. So we're going to see, I need to be about right there. So let me get this lined up. Okay, here we go. And I'm not using a zipper foot. I have a handbag zipper here that I'm using, and it's really wide, so no need to use a zipper foot. So I'll expose some of the zipper tape. So I just kind of go up next to the teeth with this default foot here. see it pushes the zipper over a little bit, which is fine. It's no big deal. Okay, there's one side. I'm supposed to turn it over and top stitch it, so I need to press it down first. I just kind of use the width of my pressure foot. Do my stitch length at 3. Zip it up to make it tight now. Now I'm pulling the fabric away from the zipper as I stitch it, so keep it good and flat. You can press it if you need to. Okay. Thread cut here, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, there's one side. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side now. So pull kind of in the middle. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pull my zipper up here. Give me consistent stitching distance, and I'll pull it when I get close to it back. Okay, now I'll pull it past now, and then I can finish the seam. Okay, There we go. Our zipper's in. And we need to top stitch this side the same way we did the other side. These clips out of the way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press this real quick to kind of show you guys. You can either press it or you can hold it, either way. Okay, got it pressed. So now we'll top stitch this side down, fold this fabric over so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, threads cut. We'll have a look at what we've done. Make sure there are no long threads on the back side to get caught in the zipper pull. Looks like it picked up all the cut threads on the back side. Get this off. Alright, there's our zipper for our pocket. Now the instructions say basically to fold it over like so and sew it, and then cut the extra fabric off from where you're folding it. I'd rather them actually measured that where it fit, but anyway, we'll fold it over a bit and stitch it down. So let me get my edges lined up here, and I'm going to have to measure to make sure it's equal and all that. So let me do that. I'll press this top edge down then, and then we'll come down through here and sew these edges together. So I'm going to need to do it wrong side out like that. And we'll sew it, and then we'll flip it right side out with through the zipper. Make sure that's opened up enough to do that. Alright, so let me do that. Let me measure it, what the instructions say, and press it down. Then we'll do that, and then I'll have to cut this off and reserge that edge, or I cut it off. So let's do that next. Okay, I lined my pocket 3 inches from the bottom here. I didn't really see anything in the instructions. They just said fold it over, but I figure that'll give me a decent distance on that side for the pocket to line up. Damn it, dang thread. There we go. Anyway, so I ironed it down, and so now we're just going to stitch it closed. I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch on a seam allowance here. Shorten my stitch up to 2.5. seam allowance on the bottom a little bit wider so we can cut that and serge it. Back to my 1/4 inch on the side. Actually, I need to make it a little bit wider because this was cut the width of the fabric. So, that should be okay. It's still the same width. Okay, I'm going to come and trim this, get my gray thread back in my serger and serge it. So I'll do that, and then when I come back we'll be flipping it right side out and we'll see what we've got. So let me do that. It's kind of a pain that they did it that way, but at least when you do it that way it lines up perfectly, I guess is the bright side of it. Oh well, let me do that and we'll be right back. Okay, I thought I'd show you what I did. I just put it on the rotary cutter and just cut it along the edge there, leaving a little bit of room to trim with the blade on the serger. So anyway, let me do that real quickly and I'll show you the results. Okay, next thing we're going to do, this is our internal patch pocket. It says to put right sides together. And we're going to sew around it, leave a small opening, and then turn it around. On my fabric I don't really need to do that, but I'm going to show you what to do just in case you've got like a quilting cotton or something that has a right and wrong side. So it says 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So let's see, where am I going to turn it? I think I'll turn it down here. So I'll start about right here and leave an opening so I can turn it right side out. Okay, here we go. Stitch 2.5 stitch length. Want to back tack real good right here, since it's going to be a bit of a stress point when we turn it wrong side out, or right side out I should say. Yeah, my fabric's not cut perfectly square here, so just do the best I can with it. This way just a bit. One more stitch. There we go. Now we'll just come here a little ways and back tack, leave our opening. Okay, Okay, now we need to cut our corners. And these edges are serged, so we should be pretty good. I could cut them with pinking shears to get a little bit closer. Don't know if I'll do that or not. It should be fine the way it is, but it's an option. Okay. Tell you what, now I'm going to leave it serged. Grab the back corner on this side and pull it through. On the back corner on this side, pull it through, and everything should come through very quickly. Work it this night. These work great. I don't know what they are. They're knitting hooks or something like that. I've got a couple of them that I use. Just dull the end of it real good so it doesn't poke through anything. And it actually works real well. It's long enough when you get something deep like this. You've got plenty of room to work with on the outside. That corner worked out. Worked out, and I get this one over here flat. You can also run it if you can get it in between the seam. You can run it down the side and get the sides out nicely. So that's what I do, is kind of get it down at the end and hold it, and then just bring it down. It pushes those seams out nice and flat. This one's been a little bit more stubborn. Okay, there we go. Got it. That seam pushed out, that seam pushed out. Now all we have to do is fold this one in and press it, get it even and flat. And then we can top stitch it down. And I think it says top stitch across the top. It probably thought I left the opening on the top, but I'll top stitch all the way around it. Keep everything nice and flat. Okay, there we go. So let me press it and we'll have a look at it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put the patch pocket on. They talk about putting a Velcro piece on it. I'm not going to mess with that. And I've got it pressed nicely here. So, and they say stitch 3/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to stitch closer to the edge to close up this opening right here to make sure it's closed. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to sew fairly close to the edge. 2.5 length stitch. Back stitch and lock that top side down real good. Okay, I'm going to push this top piece up just a little bit to give it just a little bit of leeway so it's not so tight. So I'm just kind of barely pushing it up to gather it just a tiny bit. You won't see any wrinkles in it, but this kind of gives the pocket a little bit more room. Just push it up just a little bit. Push it up a little bit more. I didn't stay as close to the edge at the end as I did in the front. Oh well. Alright, now I'm going to push this over just a little bit. Okay, there's our pocket. We left a little bit of leeway in it so it doesn't pull the lining up so much. And it doesn't take very much, just kind of push it to give it a little bit more space on top as you're sewing it. And it'll still sew down flat for you. But anyway, there's our patch pocket. I'm going to go ahead and sew. I should have done this before I put it on there, but I think it'll look better with a little bit of a stitch across the top of it here. So I've got enough room to squeeze this in right here. got a stabilizing stitch across the top of it there. It'll keep it from coming apart. Again, you can do that before you sew it on. I knew I was going to do it across the very top edge of there, so it's no big deal. But you may want to come across there with 2 stitches for decoration period pieces. Okay, it looks good. So we got that on. So next thing we've got to do is we need to sew up our lining. And I'm trying to figure out where they're going to attach the pocket. Let me see here. The internal zipper pocket. I'm going to put the lining inside out. We're going to sew around it, leave an opening to pull it back through, it looks like. So it's standard practice in bags. Finishing the pocket, wrong sides together, reveal the bottom edges, trim, I did that. There's our patch pocket, we've got that on the lining piece. It doesn't say anything about attaching the zipper pocket. Draw a line back 2 inches from the top edge. Okay guys, I kind of missed what they were saying at this part, finishing the zipper and lining front. It said fold the pocket pieces so the wrong sides are together and zipper seam allowance is along the fold. This will make the bottom edges uneven. I knew that from flipping it over to make the facing. I've done that a million times. So anyway, they show somehow folding it, the lining into it and all that, so this kind of ends up folded up under the lining. I'm just going to go ahead and stitch it to the lining at the top, because I'm not seeing exactly what they're doing there. Description kind of is funky. Anyway, I'm just going to sew it along the top seam here. That way it'll be included in the lining when it gets sewed up. And in the top seam, which is fine. It's got enough room here. But I need to attach it so it'll stay attached. So I've just got this is the inside basically in the pocket. It's going to be on the inside, so here we go. This stitch is basically going to hold it in when we start stitching around the top of the bag. So when you look down in the bag, there will be your zippered pocket right there for the inside of the bag. Because I completely misunderstood, couldn't follow along with what they were saying there. May contact them and get a clarification for you, just in case you want to do it the way they say it. Alright, so we've got that there. Now we do our seam allowance. If it's 2/3 of an inch, it may come down here and catch this, which is fine. way a little bit. Okay, this is one side of the lining. This is the other side with the patch pocket in it. And then we will have the bottom piece. And to me, this is the one that's not quite long enough. I would have thought it had been a little bit longer. And we have our two side pieces here. Alright, I'm going to do the stay stitching on each side of these and along the edge of the lining pieces so we can make the corner again. Actually, I'll just do it on those because the lining piece doesn't need it. So let me do that. Okay, got that done. Press these seams flat, and then I'm going to top stitch both of them down like I did on the outer fabric. And so let me get them pressed and we'll do the top stitching. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I've got those seams pressed flat. I'm going to use the seam as my seam guide. Get the edge of my foot going down that edge of the seam. So that way they should look straight on the inside. Outside. Shouldn't matter though, this is just the lining. Here's the first one. Foot right there on the seam. The edge of the foot on the seam, I should say. Okay, there's how it looks on that side. So let me do these other two, and then we'll be ready to start assembling this piece. This one together nice and evenly. Okay, we got our stay stitching there. So we'll go ahead and clip along those edges where our stay stitching is, starting right here where the seam is. You really want to clip right up to that line where you did your stay stitch. Don't worry if you actually cut through it, it won't hurt anything. But don't go too far past it, you'll get in your seam allowance. Alright, there's that. And down this one to get it clipped. Alright. Put in a serge seam there. Thread out of there. Alright, that should get it now where we can go around the bottom. Okay, so we need the right side lined up with the middle, which is right there. Need to turn it over so they're quote right sides together. Okay, there it is. Let me get a clip. I'm going to follow where my clips are, so that side will be the right side. Okay, there's that. I'm curious to see if these are going to line up. If they don't, and that will tell me they're off on their measurements on their pattern, which won't be the first time I've ever seen it. Do a few more clips here. Yeah, see, I don't think it's going to line up with the top. So their measurements are off on their pattern. Well, I'm just going to pull it tight and correct it the way I had to on the last one. At least they'll be the same. Okay, we've got all of our clips on, so we're going to start about right here. I need to get my 3/8 inch foot on though, because it says use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, there we go. Go ahead and start right here in the middle. Work my way around, and then I'll go back the other way. Actually, I can start back here. Shouldn't be any big deal. Back down to 2.5 inch stitch length, 2.5 millimeters. I'm going to work these folds out so we don't have any creases in them. Alright, got that side done. I'll go ahead and start at this end. Guess I could get that up next to that. Okay. Yeah, it didn't line up again. So short there, a little bit short here. And the only thing I can think of is a little bit of difference of the cutting of the corners that made the difference, but I'll have to even those out. So I'll come across here and cut this off and then serge it to get it even. Alright, let me do that real quickly, and I'll tell you what, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and sew the other side on, that way I can do it all at once and figure out what's going on with it. So I'm not going to do that on camera, it's just I'm going to attach it just like I did this one and sew it on. It'll be this side here, so let me get that attached and get that going, and we will show you the results in the end. Three, two, 1, 0. Okay, we got the lining sewed up. Again, I attached the zipper up here at the top of it. We'll have enough room to open the zipper. We sew the lining together. There's our patch pocket right there. And there's a view from that side. So now we need to do the inside out routine, sew it, leave an opening so we can pull it through, and I've got to read the instructions on how to put the flap on, so let me do that, and then we'll get the sewing this together. These are my straps right here, and I need to figure out how I'm supposed to attach those. I don't know if they do it. Sometimes you'll do it where you put the webbing on the inside of it. I don't think I need that because it's thick enough. But anyway, it'll probably be the old fold it in half and then fold it together that way. But I'll look and see what they say, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully they'll say what to do in the instructions. These instructions aren't the greatest in the world. So let me look at what I need to do on the flap, and we'll go through that next. Okay, read the instructions on the flap. We have to put the right sides together on the flap for the lining and the outside fabric. So we're going to sew all the way around it and leave a big enough opening to put our hand through and pull it through to the right side. So let's do that. And it said the seam allowance was 1/4 inch on this, so I'm going to put it on the 1/4 inch mark. Alright, let me press it real quick. We're going to have to do a stitch around it once we turn it through to basically get it nice and flat around the edges. Alright, need to cut our corners. Trim up to the corner too, that helps get it good and flat. What I'm doing is just doing the taper right here along the edge. Alright. Everything looks good. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to pink along these corners so the fabric doesn't get bunched up in there. Try to do it over here where you can see what I'm doing. Just going along that seam line fairly close and pinking these corners so that fabric doesn't bunch up down there. Okay, there's that one. That one looks okay. That one's tapered good. Let me come down here and do this one. Alright, that should help. Alright, let's turn this puppy right side out now. Should have enough room to get my hand down in there, just enough. Grab this corner, pull it up, and the other one will follow. There it is. Now we can turn this over. Good sharp corner there. A good sharp corner there. So now I just need to press this, and I'll have to fold this over about 1/4 of an inch. Actually want the lining to be a little bit on the inside, so it doesn't show anywhere outside on the pocket. So let me get it pressed, and then we will, it looks like we need to sew it onto the bag. So let me get those instructions down and we'll do that next. Okay guys, got it turned right side out and pressed it. So we're supposed to do a top stitch all the way around at 1/4 of an inch is what the instructions say. So go to 3.5 stitch. Alright, our top stitching done, got everything anchored down. Let me press it real quick. Okay, There's our strap. Let's see what the instructions say. Okay, it wants it on the outside of the bag. Contemplating putting it between the seam allowances maybe. Sure the back stitch through, close back stitch to the beginning and the end, check the inside of the bag, make sure the flap will not interfere with the inside pocket. No, kind of thinking of putting it down inside. Let me see how long it is. Let me look at it and figure out what I want to do, and then we'll sew it on. I may just do what the instructions say and just attach it to the outside. Almost wish we could have done that before we sewed up the side seams. It would have been a little bit easier. It's going to be, probably need to do it inside out first and then sew it on that way. Yeah, that'd be easier to sew it on. Just have to get the right side. So if I do it like that, we'll close on the around the inside. I don't know. Let me figure this out, and then we'll sew it on. So give me just a second, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I've decided to go ahead and put the strap, the flap inside and sew it up when I go around. That way it'll be in the seam allowance. Before you do this, you need to make sure your machine can handle the thickness. And if it can't, just sew it on the outside the way they do on the pattern. But this machine can handle it. I've only got a size 14 needle in here. Okay, when you put your flap in, what we've got here is we have right sides together. So the lining is turned, picking up all kinds of thread, this interfacing. Anyway, the lining is turned toward the right side of the lining is facing the right side of the bag. So you've got pretty sides together. So there's our pocket, and it's on the right side here. So I need to put, see, this is the patch pocket side, this is zipper side, so that's where I'm going to have my flap. So I'm going to stuff it in here in between the lining. Give me just a second here. Alright, so I'm going to put it on the back side, which will be the zipper pocket side. So find my zipper, there it is. This needs to face right sides together, the flap right sides together with the fabric. So stuff it down in there in between the lining and the outer fabric. Then I got to go around all the way around here. I'll speed this up, but I'm just going to be going around here and putting the clips in to hold everything together as I sew it. Okay, we'll stop there, leave that opening, and it's time to birth a bag. Go grab the corner and pull it through. I've got the lining also in my hand. Yeah, leave an opening big enough. It makes it so much easier to get it through and without damaging anything. We'll slowly work it out. Okay. There we go. Now let's put the lining back down in the bag. I'll have to turn this seam. We're going to top stitch around this. To close this hole up, we'll press it on the inside. Something like that. Hide the seams. Okay, now our flap will just go over like that, and it'll seal off the top. Yeah, it's kind of funny, they don't have any kind of a closure on the flap. They just are going to let it fall like that. Anyway, so we got it tucked away in the seam now, so it's not on the back. And so now all I have to do is press this good and flat and sew it up. And stitch around the edge of it, and then I've got to do the straps next, and I've got to figure out what to do on those. So let me get this pressed, and we'll do the stitch around it, and then we'll figure out what to do with the straps and get them attached. off. We're coming around to where we started. And there we go. Alright. There's our orange thread on the outside. To try to match the outside, I'll have to press it some. Looks like I got a little off right there. That's where it's trying to join the fabric. It's okay though. Okay, let me get this pressed, and then we're going to look at what we need to do to get the straps on. Okay guys, I've cut my strap out using the same fabric or the same strapping material that I used on the side here to put these loops on. And I've got two of these to hook onto it, and I've got a slider. So I don't have a right and wrong side to this strap, so I'm gonna try to tell you when I'm using the wrong side and the right side in case you're using like a quilter's cotton or something like that. Okay, here's our slider, and depending on the type you have, this one I know this is the right side because it's kind of curved a little bit. And so you take this slider, and I've already pressed this over a little bit, and you'll see why in a minute. You put it through the bottom of the slider, then you come over, loop it through the top, and pull it through. And I folded this under to hide the raw edge. And we're going to, I'm going to pull it out just a little bit more, get myself a little bit bigger area to sew on. So once you do that, we're going to sew it, or you can put rivets in it or whatever you need to do to anchor it down, but I'm going to sew this on. And I've got a narrow foot on my machine so I can get close to this buckle up here when I'm sewing this. So I'm going to do a stitch length of 2.5. And here we go. Okay, now I'm on the buckle, so I'm going to be coming off of it. I'm just going to turn the hand wheel and do this. There we go, now we're off. Just turn the hand wheel until I get the end now. Alright, we're at the end. Turn our fabric this way. We're going to sew down this edge. Okay, we're at that end. I'm going to go ahead and do a cross stitch here, and then I'll come down on the other side. I think it's going to be easier to come off this than go up on it. So here we go. back. Okay, now that I'm getting close to it, I'm going to see if I can get it up a little bit out of the way. Okay, that's about as far up as I can go. Let's see if I have any chance of going back. No, I don't. So that's about as far as I can go. Okay, so now, let's see if I can get one more in there. Maybe two more. There we go. See if I can get it around here where I can go back down here. Okay, and this is not overly heavy and doesn't have so much stress on it, or I've done another cross stitch across there, but I guess we can. Let's go ahead and do that. About as far as I can go. Okay. Get all these threads cut off and move forward. Kind of hard to see the white thread. Okay, now that we have that on, so we've got the wrong side down. Got to keep everything straight, so I've kind of bent it over here. We're going to take our slider, put it on up, because this is the right side of the fabric now. So you put it up and you bring it all the way down to about right there. Okay, now we have to take this, go through the top, go back through the bottom, pull it through, you'll have your clasp there. And this is the wrong side. We'll take this, fold it under, Fold under the little tab again to hide my raw edge. And I cut this strap. It was like 52 inches in the pattern. I always cut them. This one's 58 inches long. You can cut them up to 60 inches. So depending on how tall you are and how long you want your strap and all that, you can decide what you want to do for the length that you need. If you're a long, tall person, I'd go 60 inches on it. But if you're 5'6" to 5'8" or something like that, 54, 56, 58, somewhere in there. And if I were doing these clasps like this plus the slider, I'd go 58 when you cut it, and you should be good. Okay, we're going to sew this on now. Yeah, my fold over is not square. Oh well. Should have double checked it. Okay, let's see if we can do our X here. Across the bottom of it. Come back across this way. Alright, we should have our strap now. There's one thread. That should be it. There we go. Everything's on the right side. So let's take it and hook it to our bag now and see how it looks. There's that side. And there's that side. And there's our finished bag. Got a nice clean strap. They don't have a closure on these messenger bags, I guess because people get in and out of them so much. But anyway, we got our zipper pocket right here. Good deep pocket. Come over this way, and then we have our patch pocket right there. that is it. I know this is a long, detailed video. I tried to speed it up where I could. And I actually used some of the music I recorded about 30 years ago in a studio on this video. So the music that you hear is just stuff that I played. You know, one of them is an original piece that I wrote. The others are stuff you'll recognize from other artists. But anyway, let me know what you think, guys. It's a decent bag, I guess, if you want to have a carrier bag, and fairly simple project. And again, the only thing that I didn't fully understand that I worked through is getting this pocket in, and the way I did it, it's fine. It's, you know, it's in there good. But they had something about getting it up in this seam and stuff, and I didn't find that paragraph until after I decided, oh well, I'll just do what I want to with it. But just be aware of that. And other than that, it's fairly easy pattern to sew up. So let me know if you have any questions at all, and that will do it for this one. Take care, guys.